Oleg, the guys have just established combat with the search and rescue.
View here of the Soyuz now visible in Kazakhstan, making its way to its landing site north of Arkelik.
Thank you, Anton. That's great.
Commander Dan Burbank and his crewmates, flight engineers Anton Shkaplerov and Anatoly Ivanishin, just 10 minutes away from their landing now. This again is a live view from Kazakhstan.
I says that Anatoly must be real hungry right now.
With the parachutes that are slowing the Soyuz down, easily visible on the clear day.
Like you're not dying.
Excellent weather was predicted for the landing, and it looks like that has come through.
Yeah, I can be patient for a little bit longer. Oleg, this is Yuri. Thank you so much for the great work. Special thanks for helping us establish that the imitator is fully functional, because we had some doubts about that. Thank you, Yuri. It's just that the diagram was unreadable. I tried to get at it at different angles on the computer, and I couldn't really read any information about the mates and connectors. Yep, could have used a little bit of enlargement. Say again?
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a great mission. Thank you, Yuri. Good luck.
View there in the foreground of one of the 8 helicopters in the area to meet the Soyuz as it makes its descent to its landing site, and coming up, as you can see, on that touchdown. It's just a few seconds away now. And the team here in the International Space Station Flight Control Room confirming that the Soyuz TMA-22 has touched down in Kazakhstan now at 6:45 a.m. Central Time. That's 2:45 p.m. Kazakhstan time. This brings to an end a 165-day in space for these 3 members of the Expedition 30 crew, Commander Dan Burbank and flight engineers Anton Shkaplerov and Anatoly Ivanishin.
Anton, give him the corridor.
And you see the first of the crew members has been removed from the Soyuz capsule. This is Anton Shkaplerov, who was the commander of the Soyuz for its landing. He was seated in the center seat, and as such was the first to be taken out. Next up, of course, will be his crewmates, Anatoly Ivanishin and Dan Burbank.
They are working actually to rotate the crew members into the proper orientation so that they can be moved out of their restraint straps and then gently pulled out of the hatchway. We're about to get the second of the 3 crew members out. This process, whether the Soyuz lands upright or on its side, does take a few minutes to complete. But they're working methodically to extract the crew members and get them into their respective seats, the other 2 crew members, that is. Typically the left seater, which would be Anatoly Ivanishin, would be the second one out. We'll see if that is the case here. Sometimes they reverse the order of the second and third crew members. There
that looks like what we're seeing.
And it is, in fact, Ivanishin who is pulled out of the Soyuz spacecraft, flashing a broad smile as he is put in his reclining chair, completing his first flight into space, as did his Russian crewmate Anton Shkaplerov. So yet to come, Dan Burbank, and then the extraction of the crew will be complete. They'll have an opportunity to spend a few minutes in their reclining chairs, getting their sea legs back, if you will, after 5.5 months of weightlessness before they are hoisted in those chairs and carried about 35, 40 yards away to an inflatable orange medical tent in which they will be assisted in the removal of their Sokol launch and entry suits to get into more comfortable flight suits. They'll be placed into all-terrain vehicles and driven a short distance to their respective helicopters for the 1-hour, 50-minute flight back to Kustanay, Kazakhstan, just south of the Russian border, for a short welcoming ceremony. Ivanishin and Shkaplerov will board a Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center aircraft to be flown back to Chkalovsky Airfield outside of Star City. There they will be reunited with their families, and they'll be met by top Russian space officials. Dan Burbank, meanwhile, will board a NASA jet that is sitting on the tarmac in Kustanay for the flight back to Houston. This seemed to be one of the most pinpoint, precise landings, according to what we were told a moment ago before I went on the air. The spacecraft landed almost exactly where it had been forecast to. Of course, the search and recovery forces are tracking the Soyuz through a beacon signal, GPS receivers. They had voice contact, and now applause comes up. Dan Burbank, now out of his and being carried to his chair. We're going to walk over to see if we can get closer to him. He is in the process of loosening the helmet that he wore during the descent back to Earth, but all three crew members now out of the Soyuz vehicle. Chief astronaut Peggy Whitson is directly behind Burbank, asking him if he needs anything at the moment. Dr. Smith Johnston, his flight surgeon, and Russian nurses are attending to Burbank as well. This is customary. They're placing a blanket over his legs. He'll have an opportunity to refamiliarize himself to the 1G environment here as the moments move on before they're hoisted back into their medical tent, as I said, to get their flight suits off. And now he's about to receive congratulations from one of the head personnel for the search and recovery forces, making sure if he needs anything. Burbank has simply asked for a bottle of water to wet his whistle, if you will. And there's laughter abounding. He appears to be in very good shape indeed.
And as you can see, the crew now being moved into that medical tent. Again, they'll be able to get out of their spacesuits and ready for their trip first back to Kustanay and then on to their various homes.
Аккуратнее ленты, ребята, аккуратнее. Колышек смотрите. Сюда.